Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you a comparison video today between the Adidas adiPure 11Pro 2 and the Nike Tiempo Legend 4. These are two shoes that are currently battling it out at the moment, as the new release of the 11 Pro has really gotten people interested in it, but at the same time they want to know which of these two is the better model for them, and that's hopefully the question that I'm going to answer for you in today's video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First things first, let's start off with the uppers. Now both of these shoes are listed as heritage boots, which basically implies that you're going to get a more traditional feel on the ball due to the leather uppers, while still maintaining the technical innovation that you would expect from a modern day soccer shoe. Now one of the comments I've seen a lot about the new 11 Pro is that the stitching pattern in the forefoot is very similar to what you're going to find on the Tiempo Legend 4 due to that kind of quilted design, as you guys can see. On the Legend 4, that quilted design is only on the outside and it does not go through the toe box or the inside of the forefoot, whereas on the 11 Pro, as you can see, it goes through the entire forefoot of the boot. Now again, this is kind of something that people are kind of calling out Adidas for, saying that they are copying Nike, and my response to that is that's absolutely crazy. I don't think one company can kind of take ownership of this quilted stitching pattern in the upper, and for the most part it's a fairly insignificant design element on both of these two shoes, and really not something to concern yourself with if you're looking at both the 11 Pro and the Tiempo Legend 4. Just a quick little note there that I wanted to throw in, just because I know a lot of people are commenting about Adidas copying Nike here, and I just don't think that's the case. Now starting off with the upper on the Tiempo Legend 4, it's made out of two separate materials. You have a combination of kangaroo leather here at the front, cutting off at this seam right here, going all the way around the forefoot and toe box area, and then cutting off at this point right here, whereas the back half of the shoe is made from Nike's Kangolite synthetic material, which is synthetic designed to mimic the natural feel of kangaroo leather, which sounds a little bit silly since there is actual kangaroo leather on the shoe. Why wouldn't Nike just make the entire shoe kangaroo leather? But there's actually some pretty good reasoning behind that. Basically, you have that soft kangaroo leather here at the front of the shoe, has a decent thickness to it and provides a nice soft touch on the ball, as well as allows the entire front part of the shoe, the forefoot and toe box area, to stretch and form to nearly any foot shape whatsoever. Whereas the midfoot area of the shoe, a part of the shoe that you really don't want to stretch all that much and you want to kind of maintain its shape and keep your foot locked down in the shoe, is made from a synthetic material that is going to offer a very similar touch to the kangaroo leather at the front, but is also going to maintain its shape a lot better and overall kind of maintain the benefits of a synthetic material. Doesn't require much maintenance, it's going to be more durable, doesn't absorb as much water. So again, while still maintaining a very similar feel to the front part made from kangaroo leather, you have the benefits of a synthetic through the midfoot, making the Legend not only a great feeling classic shoe, but also giving it kind of the modern longevity of a synthetic boot, which is something that I really like about the Nike Tiempo Legend 4. It also has a very uniform feel across the entire foot, since the entire boot is pretty much the same thickness. Central lacing system, as you guys can see, the tongue itself is made from Kangolite synthetic as well, with a very thin layer of memory foam going through the middle, and then of course ACC all conditions control acts as the wet control element for the shoe. Basically it adds a little bit of extra grip on the ball when playing in wet weather playing conditions. Not a major feature, but definitely worth noting. Now moving on to the 11 Pro, the upper is made from what Adidas calls Taurus leather. Now Taurus leather is kind of a fancy name for what is essentially calfskin. Basically it's the treatment process which gives it the Taurus name, if you will, but there's no such animal as a Taurus. I get a lot of questions about that. It is in fact calfskin leather. You can see the stamping right there, and the leather on this shoe is pretty much the entire upper, excluding this little shiny part on the tongue, on the back of the heel, sorry, that it's a very shiny purple, and then the tongue itself isn't leather either. It's a synthetic material with a very thick strip of memory foam going through the middle. So the rest of the upper, everything that looks like leather is leather, and the leather quality itself is definitely pretty good, better than what I think we saw on the previous 11 Pro, but I wouldn't say is up to par with the quality of the kangaroo leather on the Legend 4. Just based on my own personal preferences. This leather on here is going to be a little bit thicker and a little bit more padded in my opinion, whereas something like this is a little bit thinner, and the softness of the touch more or less comes from the memory foam inserts here in the forefoot, which is also part of the reason why Adidas went with this quilted pattern here. Now basically there's very thin layers of memory foam running through the entire forefoot, similar to the feather touch system that Mizuno uses on their Supersonic Wave series, so kind of I guess if you want to say Adidas copied somebody, they wouldn't be copying Nike with the quilted pattern, they'd be copying Mizuno with the memory foam inserts in the leather upper. Now they're kind of touting this as both a softness of the touch element as well as just a comfort element. They're really kind of saying that the 11 Pro is designed around being as comfortable as possible, and I would say that it is a comfortable shoe, but for the most part, this memory foam here on the instep, in the forefoot area I should say, is really going to modify your touch on the ball to where it feels a lot different coming from a traditional leather shoe like the Nike Tiempo Legend. So I would say something like this is going to offer a very, very soft kind of traditional touch on the ball, whereas something like this with those memory foam inserts, it's still very soft, but at the same time it has a slightly firmer feel, and it has somewhat of a dampening effect. I would say that you lose some of that natural ball feel that you would normally have with just a natural leather on its own, but at the same time I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing to have that little bit of extra dampening effect. And either way, if you're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more padded in terms of your feel on the ball, you're going to be happy with either of these two. I would just say that a little bit more of the ball feel comes through with the Legend 4 as opposed to the 11 Pro, but if you want more of a dampening, slightly more controlled feeling, I think you're going to prefer the 11 Pro. My one complaint about the upper of the 11 Pro is going to be this synthetic tongue with the thick memory foam insert. To me, it's a little bit too thick and does make for a slightly awkward kind of getting used to period for the first couple of hours, and even then, I still can't say that I'm still a huge fan of this tongue. I wish it would have been leather or at least a thinner synthetic material, but for the most part, once you get used to it, it is definitely very, very manageable. Next, we're going to talk about the stud patterns, which I don't really feel are the selling points for either of these two shoes, but we'll talk about it anyways. Now, starting off with the Tiempo Legend 4, you have a TPU base for the sole plate itself. It's very, very flexible in the forefoot area. And then you have a fairly standard Tiempo Legend stud pattern. You have your 4 bladed studs in the heel, providing some really decent support. Your conical studs, 4 on each side of the forefoot, which are fairly long and fairly aggressive for a more traditionally styled shoe, making this one of the more, like I said, aggressive stud patterns for something that is going to feature a predominantly leather upper, especially if compared to something like the Nike Premier and even the Adidas Copa Mundial. If you want to really compare it to old school shoes, you got your 2 support blade studs here in the middle of the forefoot. Then of course you have those little prickly things right at the tip of the toe as well as at the back of the heel, which is kind of a nice little thing that Nike likes to add on to the Tiempo Legend stud pattern, even if it works just one time in terms of kind of preventing a slip, whether it be at the toe or at the heel. It's definitely worth having there just because it adds pretty much no extra bulk to the shoe whatsoever, and to me it's just kind of a cool little concept by Nike that they're implementing on a lot of their higher end models. So for the most part, this is a very trustworthy stud pattern. It works well on pretty much any type of natural grass playing surfaces, and in terms of the stud patterns that I like to use, if you're looking for something that is more traditionally styled, this is definitely one of the better ones out there in terms of grip as well as stability and just the ability to maneuver once your foot is planted. Now moving on to the new 11 Pro stud pattern, that's just it. It's new, and that's something we haven't seen from Adidas in the last couple of years. It also does not feature a sprint frame design. Instead, you get Adidas's comfort frame, which is newly designed and specific to the new 11 Pro. And basically it's designed around comfort, just as the name suggests. Again, it's kind of a TPU construction. It's a more flexible plastic than what you're going to find on your standard sprint frame, and very similar actually to the type of plastic used on the Tiempo Legend. Very, very flexible through the midfoot and forefoot area, which is again very important when it comes to overall comfort and grip in general. You have 4 triangular studs here in the heel that are not as aggressive as what you're going to find on the Nike Tiempo Legends, and I would say are a little bit shorter, but because all the studs do have a fairly narrow profile about them, they dig into the ground quite easily, providing some pretty good grip at push-off. Now you have 4 studs here on the outside of the forefoot, 3 studs on the inside, and then 1 support stud in the middle. So you have fewer studs under your feet, and again, it just performs really well on any type of natural grass playing surface. I notice I really don't have any complaints about it, other than maybe the lack of studs does make for a slight lack of stability when playing on slightly harder natural grass playing surfaces, but for the most part I think you're going to be pretty good with either of these 2 stud patterns, and in terms of performance they are very, very similar. In terms of weight, both of these shoes are very similar to each other in that they both hover right around the 9-ounce mark. So I'm going to weigh both of these shoes for you today in real time. Keep in mind that these are both in brand new condition and both in a size 9 US. So a very fair comparison is going to be made right now. So we're going to throw the Tiempo Legend 4 on the scale first. And you can see that these guys weigh in at 9 ounces exactly, which is a pretty good weight range, slightly lighter than you might expect for a shoe with a predominantly natural leather upper and a more padded feel overall. So we'll take that off the scale and we'll throw on the adiPure 11 Pro. Again, brand new, size 9 US. Going to see what these guys weigh. And you can see that they weigh in at 9.3 ounces. So 0.3 ounces more than the Nike Tiempo Legend 4, which might surprise a few people, but that is reality, as you guys can see. Again, is 0.3 ounces going to be a noticeable amount of weight either in hand or on feet? The answer to that question is no. So again, I really wouldn't make my decision as to whether or not I wanted the 11 Pro or the Legend 4 based on weight, since they're pretty much exactly the same. Alright, here's a look at both the 11 Pro as well as the Legend 4s on feet. You can see that these are now different pairs because these are the pairs that I wore for testing, whereas the two shoes that you saw previously in the video were in brand new condition. So this is what both shoes look like once they're broken in. Now in terms of fit, both of these shoes fit and feel and provide a very similar level of comfort, mainly because they're shaped very similarly. Now because they both feature natural leather uppers, you're going to have that ability to allow the shoe to stretch to the exact shape of your foot, allowing you for a very custom feel, also allowing for pretty much all foot types to be suitable for either of these two shoes. So whether you have narrow feet, moderately wide feet, or very wide feet, both of these shoes should fit you pretty well, given that you get the proper size. Now in terms of the shape of both of these two shoes, again, they're very, very similar. I would say that they're both about average in width through the toe box and forefoot area, but because they are leather, they will stretch, whereas the 11 Pro is ever so slightly wider than the Legend 4 through the midfoot. But again, they're very, very close when it comes to comparing one to the other. One thing that is new about the new 11 Pro is the cut in the ankle and heel area. It's a little bit higher cut than any of the previous adiPure or 11 Pro models, so that is a dramatic improvement in my opinion, and it definitely makes for a more comfortable fit, and again, making it a little bit more similar to the Legend 4 in terms of where it's cut. As far as the overall sizing goes, I'm wearing a size 9 US in the Legend 4, and they fit pretty much perfectly. I would definitely recommend going true to size in the Legend, whereas in the adiPure here, I'm wearing a size 8.5 US, which is a half size down from what I normally wear. I've tested the shoe in both a 9 US as well, and I have to say that the fit was good in both sizes, but if you want something a little bit more snug, you can safely go a half size down in the new 11 Pro, or go true to size if you want a little bit of wiggle room. So that's pretty much it as far as the on-feet portion of this video goes, and I'll leave you to my final thoughts. So, which of these two shoes is the better buy, the 11 Pro or the Legend 4? The answer to that question is more or less down to personal preference, as I truly do believe that both of these two shoes have a lot to offer, and you're really going to be happy either way. With that being said, which one is my personal favorite of the two? I still have to say that the Legend 4 edges out the 11 Pro in this particular situation, simply because I feel like Nike is more or less in the refinement process for the Tiempo Legend series, whereas Adidas is more or less having to change up their design with every new release in order to kind of satisfy their customers, if you will, because I think for the most part the previous 11 Pro just really wasn't up to par with something like the Legend 4 in terms of providing that nice traditional feel on the ball. With that being said though, if you want something that is really unique as far as kind of traditionally styled soccer shoes go, the 11 Pro is definitely something to consider, especially with those memory foam inserts running through the forefoot and tongue. It really does make for a very unique dampening effect that you really can't get from any other shoe other than maybe the Supersonic Wave 3, which isn't exactly something that's widely available. So if you guys are looking for more information on the overall performance of either of these two shoes, such as more details on the overall fit, feel, and performance, I strongly recommend checking out the full written reviews on my website, soccerreviewsforyou.com. You can find a direct link to both of those down below in the description. The review for the Legend 4 is now up, whereas a review for the 11 Pro is coming very, very soon, within the next week. Also on those review pages, you will find buy it now links with the best prices online, including exclusive SR4U coupon codes to get yourself some additional discounts, whether you're interested in the 11 Pro or the Legend 4. Now, if you guys do have any questions regarding either of these two shoes or questions about both shoes together, feel free to leave those questions down below in the comments, and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information down below in the description. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.